introduce one of the ski industry's stalwarts, really, Peter Hardy. He's the editor of one of the editors of We Love to Ski and a Daily Telegraph ski correspondent. Now, Peter and I went out to Cervinia this summer because we left it too late to film it in the winter, so we decided to go out in the summer. And we thought, in order to celebrate the 80 years of Erna Low, the anniversary, we would ski and make a film skiing on vintage skis. So we raided the ski club of Great Britain. We ripped some skis off the wall. We also took a large amount of what's there in Peter's loft, and we headed out to Cervinia. So I'd like you to give a big round of applause for my co-presenter on this film we're about to see, Peter Hardy.
I see that the main feature film tonight, after we leave this cinema, is Killing Them Softly. That's exactly what the boots in the film you're about to see did to my feet. Learning to ski in the days when Erna was a teenager in the 1920s was as uncomfortable as it is difficult. Just how difficult, Graham and I discovered, or as you'll see in a moment, I alone discovered. I mean, I thought I could ski a bit. I've been doing it professionally for quite a long time now. I first learned to ski in lace-up boots on the nursery slopes behind the church in Leck. Now, I'm not going to say exactly when, but it was the year when the Times newspaper started describing John, Paul, George and Ringo as the Beatles, a popular singing group. The skis we had then were positively high-tech to those we took out to Cervinia, and they were incredibly long. Filming in the Alps in summer or in winter is never easy because of the weather. All that white stuff on the ground means that there must be a few blue sky. If all that white stuff on the ground means it has to come from somewhere, and therefore we don't get a blue sky day every day. Now, our budget allowed for just 1.5 days skiing, and on the first day it rained, it hailed, it snowed, it thundered, and we came within 5 metres of being struck by a lightning bolt. Now, despite the valiant efforts of cameraman Adam Brown and the help of a fully costumed snow elf and safety officer in Ayleston national dress, namely Jane Bolton, we ended up at tea time that day with virtually nothing usable in the can. And the big worry was what we do then. But then the following morning, while we were thinking, we have to sort of stay on or something, we opened our eyes in the morning, and as so often happens at the mountains, the sun had just suddenly arrived. Il Cervino, the Matterhorn, that is most magnificent. And we had just 2 hours to make the most of it. So we went up the mountain, and we did. Now, I just didn't think that skiing on those old planks would be as difficult as it was. It's more difficult than I could possibly imagine, as you're probably about to see. Graham, well, after a few turns, he just took off down the glacier as if the skis had been made for him. Bastard.
By way of celebrating the 80 years of Erna Low running ski holidays to the Alps, I'm going to attempt to ski on some vintage skis with a good friend of mine who has an encyclopedic knowledge of ski history, Peter Hardy. Now, Peter, what are the age ranges of the skis we have?
They range from about 1900 up to, we've got some really modern ones of 1960 there. So this is spanning the whole era of Erna Low, from when she first started.
And these are some of the oldest ones?
These are some of the oldest skis we've got, and they're around about 1900, and we could tell that because they haven't got any form of metal edge on them at all. So if you hit a patch of ice, you've got a problem. But of course, there were no piste patches then, you were just skiing in deep snow. And as a binding, you've got a very, very, very simple, what we call a brake leg binding, because once you're in there, it's not going to come out. This is long before the invention of safety bindings. The boot was a very simple thing, a hobnail boot that you'd have worn on the farm around here. You jam it in there, tighten the clip, and away you go. And it's quite a difficult skiing technique. These would be around about 1910 or sort of First World War maybe, and by then it's changed. The binding is still fairly similar, although they've managed to put a spring in it. And
metal edges.
Metal edges, that's the big difference. So they've screwed in metal edges all the way down. So now if you actually hit a patch of ice, the ski will hold.
Right.
And then these skis come in around about 1925. Still the same sort of thing. But getting a little bit more sophisticated up here. You can adjust the cable, things like that. Metal edge again. and much better sole. And then we come to the first sort of kind of, well, the first safety binding. You have a forward binding here that does actually amazingly provide some form of protection in a lateral fall. But if you punch that, you might come out.
One.
And there is a forward release as well too, in theory, but it never actually worked.
Right.
And then we move on to really the first metal ski which came in, which was around about 1960, late 50s. And that had a much more sophisticated binding on it. It's sprung both ways.
So you can actually,
Right, the boot will come out of that. Put that in there, jam that up. There you go. The sideways release and the forward release now began to work.
Right.
Because they put some bit more sophisticated stuff in there, better spring.
So if you pull hard enough on this,
hard enough on there, it will actually
release.
just come out.
Right. Okay. So which skis do you think that I should ski on?
Oh, I think you should go for the oldest and the earliest and the most difficult, the ones with no edges.
Okay. Luckily, we've had some fresh snow up here, and but it's going to be skiing telemark style.
It's going to be skiing telemark style and stick in the deep stuff, because once you get onto any form of pisted stuff that is here, there's no grip at all.
Right, brilliant. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Let's go skiing.
Let's go.
Right, okay, well,
so
let's give it a try.
I'm going to try and
Come on,
snowplow down here, I think.
Off we go. Woo!
It's like being a beginner, complete beginner. A very strange sensation.
It isn't that dissimilar to modern day telemarking, except no metal edges. But the snow's soft enough. You can give a little bit of a kick, get yourself going. It's actually quite fun.
That it brings about its own existence.
Snow's a bit sticky lower down. Come on boys, run, run. Woohoo! This patch of snow is too small. We'll get more lower down. This is what it was like in the old days.
That's the first time I've seen the outtakes. As Peter said, we did have some rather inclement weather the first day that we were up on the mountain, and lightning and hailstones and various different conditions chucked at us. And we were actually very lucky to get back up the second day at all, because they closed the glacier for skiing. And it was only because we had the old wooden skis that we were allowed up the lift, because we just said, oh, we're not actually going to ski on them, we're just going to do a photo shoot. And any telemarkers in the room? Any telemarkers? Anyone skis telemark? No one skis telemark here. There's one at the back, very smug, very smug. They're like, oh, telemark technique. Of course that works way better than that alpine lock your heel down. And you could see that I think it would have been, I think I actually had the slightly easier option of skiing telemark rather than skiing with the binding and the heel locked down, having no faith that the binding was actually going to release had I fallen. But chances are you would have shattered the skis to pieces anyway, and I think by the time I got to the bottom and skied all the way down from Bato Rosa to the lake further down, if anyone knows Cervinia, I'd rubbed all of the varnish off the bottom of the skis, and schoolboy Air had forgot to put my candle wax into my pocket to get the speed up. But an excellent day, and yeah, it was a very good day, very great weekend, fun filming out there.